Welcome to the Wired for Success podcast, your show for ambitious, mission-driven entrepreneurs who understand that there's more to entrepreneurship than finding the latest flash-in-the-pan strategies, who understand that in order to build your empire, you need a solid foundation. I wholeheartedly believe that entrepreneurship is the biggest self-development journey you can be on, and it's my mission to help you make that journey easier. In this show, I bring together the very best from science, self-development, and entrepreneurship to set you up for sustainable success. Hi, I'm Claudia Garbutt, the scientist and mindset coach behind this show, and you're listening to the Wired for Success podcast. Hey everyone, and welcome back to another amazing episode of the Wired for Success podcast. Today, I'm really looking forward to talking with Krissy Chin, a former registered nurse who managed to build $1 million business without a business degree. Today, she's a successful serial entrepreneur who shows other entrepreneurs how to leverage social media to grow their online businesses and how to scale their businesses through automation. I've invited Krissy because I want you to listen to her story. I hear so many people say, I can't be successful because I don't have a fancy degree, or I can't build a successful business because I didn't go to business school. Well, today, Krissy will share her story to show you that those are all just excuses and that you can build a successful business no matter your background. So welcome, Krissy, and thank you so much for being on my show today.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited to be here.
Oh, I'm so excited too. It's my pleasure, and I'm really looking forward to this. So, Krissy, why don't you tell our listeners how you changed your career path from being a nurse to becoming a super successful entrepreneur, and what made you decide that it was time for a change?
Yeah. So went into nursing school. I was 18, like most people when you go to college, and it was like, what is going to give me, steady income, a job right after college, and that I was mildly interested in. And so nursing was it for me. I loved helping people. I'd always been interested in health. I loved my anatomy and physiology classes. So it just kind of made sense to take that path. And once I graduated and got into the nursing profession, while I really did enjoy it and felt like I was good at it, I very quickly realized that it wasn't really the lifestyle that I wanted. Mm-hmm. Of course, the low man on the totem pole, I was working night shift, 12-hour night shift. I was working the weekends. I was working holidays, and asking for vacation was like, nope, like someone else that's more seniority asked and you didn't get it. And so very quickly I realized, like, okay, this isn't really the life for me. And part of my story that I don't go into detail, but I talk about, is that I had just gotten out of a controlling marriage. And so it was like, okay, now I don't want anything else to control my life and what I can do. And so very quickly after a couple years after, I was like, you know what, I need to do something else. And so I just started exploring, and I started exploring going back to school to make more money, to have better hours as well. And just realized that was not in the cards for me. I didn't want to go back to school and take on more debt. I didn't want to really have that lifestyle. I wanted the sky is the limit to be, what it could be for generating income, because I like fancy things, and I dream about a lot of things that cost money. So that's just kind of how I fell into this path of exploring other opportunities. Mm-hmm. And so that's like the small beginning step of how it kind of happened.
Yeah, I can totally understand that, especially this starting something and then realizing it's not the lifestyle for you, because that's pretty much what happened to me as well. So I studied biology, and then I spent 24 hours a day in the lab, and I loved the science behind that, and it just, the lifestyle didn't fit what I wanted from my life. So that's when I decided to change as well. And because I had kids, and once you have kids, your priorities change as well, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And that was for sure something as well when I got started in one business before before I had any children, just kind of exploring different things, but I still went with my path of health and wellness. I got into a specific technique of alternative health therapy. That again, health was my passion then. And so I started exploring that, and I went to the training for a technique that I had used on me to help discover food sensitivities and other nutritional deficits, and it really worked on me. And so I was like, I'm going to go to this training and see how this works. And there they said you could have $1 million practice, and my eyes lit up, and I was like, oh, well, that sounds amazing. And I was like, you know what, I could do this. I could really do this. And it was really just those dollar signs that got me really excited, even though it was something that I was interested in. And I didn't think much past that, but I started exploring. I started getting the training. I decided I'm going to go work with a chiropractor in their office and take on these patients, these clients, and build this business. And so I did that for, a year. I wasn't in. Every time I was going to be into a chiropractor's office, something didn't work out. And I think it was subconscious self-sabotage, to be honest. I just for some reason couldn't follow through, and I didn't realize it at the time. And then about after a year, I had been seeing people and doing this technique and making some money at it. I was still working my nursing job, and I realized a light bulb went off that wait a minute, this is not going to give me the exact lifestyle that I want. This is the whole reason I left or wanted to leave nursing, was to have this time freedom, this calendar flexibility, while generating a lot more income. And I realized, okay, if I build up this practice and I'm seeing patients in an office, if I want to pick up and leave for a week, like that, I'm not going to be able to do that. Right. Or I had met my husband then, and we talked about moving south, which is where we are now. And it was like, okay, if I build up this practice and I leave, I'm going to have to start over. And that sounded overwhelming. It sounded like, okay, this is not for me. And so thankfully it was, just a year in, while it was a lot of hours and I did spend money investing in training and getting supplies, I'm thankful that it wasn't 5 years down the road, or that I hadn't built up this $1 million practice. Right. And so I teach that a lot. Let's look at what you really want your life to look like in a year, or in 3 years, or in 5 years. And let's make sure that you're setting up your business to support that lifestyle. Right. So that's why it's so important to me to help people with that. And so just taking a look at, is what I'm doing going to really support the lifestyle that I want? And so I quit that. I got out of it. And that's, I call it my failed business. It never really went anywhere, but partly because I was like, this is not for me. And just kept exploring. And then network marketing fell into my lap, and I said I was never going to do the business, and then very quickly found myself doing the business. And I was like, okay, I guess this is happening. It was still a health company. So, it was still part of what I was passionate about, helping people with health prevention and live healthy lives. So it was still aligned with me in that way. And for the first time, I was literally able to work from anywhere, whenever I wanted. And so that's why I really got attached to that and started building that business. And then that evolved into, the Grow Workspace brand, which is my multi-million-dollar brand, which is amazing. Turned into me starting my own business. So I don't know, I'll let you chime in, and I don't know if there are specific questions you want to ask me before I just keep going. I could talk about my story for all day if you wanted.
No, I really like that, because this flexibility was just something that was so important to me as well, because my husband, he's from New Zealand. So my son was born in New Zealand, but then we moved back to Germany. But we never were quite sure if we would stay in Germany or if we would move back to New Zealand maybe at some point in time. So I had the same thoughts, what if I build something up over here and then we decide to move and I have to give it all up again and start all over? So finally I decided that what I wanted to do was to build an online business, because that's where you get that flexibility, right? Yeah. So yeah, I totally understand why you went that way. The other thing is, as a mom, I know it can be really, really difficult to balance your role as a mom and also as your role as an entrepreneur. So how did you make sure you build your businesses in a way that fit your lifestyle and your business goals at the same time?
Yeah, I'm someone who doesn't necessarily believe that you can always have balance in your life. Because I certainly don't. At times, I'm very heavy in business and maybe a project that's happening, and then it kind of flips a switch. And when that project is done, I get to shift more into mom mode. So I don't know that I've ever had perfect balance, although I'm getting better at giving my kids what they need to feel loved and to feel appreciated and to feel like I'm paying attention to them, right? It's like, I know when I'm not spending enough time with them, when they're like bugging me constantly, I'm like, okay, wait, you just need more attention. Okay, I'm going to take the day off tomorrow. But that's what's cool about entrepreneurship and the flexibility is you can do that. So I don't know that I have any secret tips to finding balance, but more so just encouraging the listeners and challenging the listeners to listen to their body and to take a look at what's going on. And if you're feeling not satisfied in an area, to let yourself focus there and to let yourself be okay with not being perfectly balanced, right? Like it has its ebbs and its flows. And as long as you feel super aligned with what you're doing and it's making you happy, then I think it's okay to not be, like 50% here and 50% here. But like, all right, this month I've got this big project going on and my husband's going to be spending more time with the kids. And, I've got some really special weekends planned during that time. And then that project gets done and then we can shift the focus.
Yeah, well, I don't believe in that 50-50 or, having equal amounts or spending equal amounts in that role and equally as much time in the other role that ever works out. But I believe in something like harmony. So harmony is more important than this 50-50 balance that I don't think anyone can ever reach. But just, as you said, staying aligned and then shifting gears as it's needed. So I think that really comes back to building a business that is aligned or that is focused around your priorities. And this is something that's absolutely critical. And it's something that I teach in my new productivity course for entrepreneurs as well, because I think that truly successful entrepreneurs, they always start with the end in mind. So you have to know what you want to create and what's important to you, because otherwise you just risk building something you don't enjoy in the long run, right?
Yeah. And exactly. And so like I mentioned before, when they said you can build $1 million, practice, I was just paying attention to those dollar signs because that was such a big part of what I wanted, right? I wanted financial freedom and I didn't pay attention to everything else, like you mentioned. And if I had, I wouldn't have even gotten started in that business. So paying attention to everything so that you can make the right decisions. But, I never think, my definition of failure, I think, is a lot different than some people, but maybe more similar to the people that have been really successful. And it's as long as I learned something from the process, it wasn't a failure. Exactly. And so, my failed business, as I call it, I learned a ton. And I learned everything of what I wanted my next business to be. So that was, super beneficial for me, but I completely agree with what you're saying.
Awesome. But for me, I don't know about you, but I think that there's always room for improvement, even if you've created $1 million business. So if you could change just one thing about your business or your personal life, what would it be?
This is good. I completely agree with that too. I always have a coach, if not multiple coaches. I'm always trying to learn more because there's still so much that I don't know, even though I've, had, what I consider to be success. So something that I could change about my business or my personal life. I think I would go on dates with my husband more in my personal life, but with everything going on, it's a little bit challenging. But I do think, and that's always something like, even with my high performance coach of working with him, that was always something like spending more time with my partner, with my significant other, because I think that just sets so much foundation for my children and even for my business. Because when I'm happier there, like everything else is easier and more enjoyable. So I think I'm going to have to revisit that, going back to giving my spouse a little bit more attention.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. Now, if it's okay with you, I'd just like to go back to talking about failure, like you mentioned before, because oftentimes entrepreneurs, they openly share their success stories and they hide all the failures they experienced along the way. And then people on the outside, they only see the shiny end result and they see the success, but they don't see the ugly side, and they don't understand that failure is part of the journey. And this often leads people to being so afraid of failure that they don't even start. Or they start and then they fail, but they don't think about that like a failed business attempt, but they think about it as they are a failure, and then they give up. So going back to one or multiple of your failed businesses, I don't know how many you've started, but would you tell us about that experience of yours and what you've learned from that?
Yeah. Gosh, I mean, yes, I have started multiple businesses, and, I call them failures, but it was really, they just weren't aligned with me. And I think if you can get comfortable with that you're not failing because you're bad at something. There's something that you need to learn from that situation, or there's something that's not aligned. Because when you really are aligned 100%, and then you will stick with it. You will be consistent with it, and you will generate success. So kind of just going back to, is it aligned with me? I also love to play the and then what game. For people that you mentioned, people that are like, they harp on their failures so much that they never get started. So I love to challenge people. And if you're listening, challenge yourself to do the and then what game, where, okay, if I start this business and no one buys, and then what? Then I'll change my strategy. And if no one still buys, then what? Then I'll go back and I'll do more research on what their problems are. Okay, and then what? And then I'll try again. And what if it doesn't, happen for you? And then what? And so just keep going through this scenario. And every time, I guarantee you will not be dead at the end. Right?
Right.
Right. Like, you will still be alive. Life will still be going on. Yeah. And there's always just something else to try. So, it does take courage to get something started. And it does, take the power to put something into action. But just always remember, and then what? And then I will just do the next thing, right? So don't think about, a lot of entrepreneurs, like you said, they have the end goal in mind. I think the people that get really stopped up is they see every roadblock along the way and they get scared. Yeah. And they're worried that they're not going to be able to move past that. And they just sit on that first roadblock. Whereas something that I found that's really helped me, and this comes more naturally to me. So if it doesn't, this is where you have to improve, right? This is where the personal development comes in, is that I see the end in mind and I say, I don't know how I'm going to get there, but I'm just going to go. Yeah. And so I get started, and then I come to that first roadblock and I'm like, oh, shoot, I don't know how to build a website. Okay, well, let's just solve this problem. And then what? And then I go ask someone who does. Or for Grow Workspace, I brought my sister in as a partner because everything that I wasn't good at, she was good at. And so that was how I solved my problem there. And we complement each other really well. But you could go hire someone to do that, and then as we're going, hit another roadblock. Okay, now I don't have any time for my family because I'm spending all of my time in this business doing every little piece of it. Okay, how can I move around this roadblock or go over it? Okay, I'm going to hire my first virtual assistant to do little things that I can just pass off so I can stay in my zone of genius and build this business and have more time with my family. And so then you move around that roadblock. So that's just something, take a look and see, are the roadblocks stopping you? Because you can just figure that out when you get there. You don't have to have all the answers. You won't have all the answers. I don't have all the answers.
Nobody does.
Get started, or when you're halfway through, or when you make your first million or your second million, like I still don't have all the answers, but I'm not afraid to put myself out there. I'm not afraid to take that first step. And I'm certainly not afraid to ask questions or get a coach.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, this is such great advice. And thank you so much for your openness and for sharing your experiences with our listeners, because I think it really helps people to understand that failure is not the end, and it's just part of the learning process and part of the journey. So speaking of that entrepreneurial journey, I love that your motto is work less and enjoy more, because I totally second that. So can you share some practical tips about automating and scaling your business so that we can free up more of that precious time to do all the important things in our lives?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I keep going back and forth. Is it work less or work harder? I think it's work harder to work less to enjoy more, because I am a really hard worker and I love, and I'm sure you are, and you love what you do. So you don't want to not work, right? Because we love it, but we want to enjoy a lot more of the things that we love outside of work. So my biggest tips right off the get-go are hire support. Again, like I mentioned before, the first thing I did in my business was hire a virtual assistant. So anything that happens over and over and over and over again, that you could make a little video and show someone how to do it and then pass that task off to them, do it. Make the video and hire it out, so that they can take that off. Because I guarantee you didn't go into business to manually put in numbers or double check that someone joined your membership and now gets access to the Facebook group. Like, that's not why you started your business, right? So certainly hiring support. I went so as far as so I was creating the content for Grow Workspace in that business, and I ended up hiring out a content creator. And so it's like, oh my gosh, like, wait a minute, but that was like the bread and butter, what you were good at and doing in your business. And I still hired it out. Like, I've hired basically everything out in that business. My sister did the graphic design. We hired that out. So now we spend about five hours a week in that business. Wow. And what I found through building my businesses and building my network marketing business is that I have a passion for business and a passion for implementing strategy. And so that's really where I get to stay in my zone of genius in that brand, is hiring every piece of it out and then really looking at the business strategy and implementing it and going there. So just hiring support, anything automation. I'm a little bit newer to this, but there's third-party services out there that like Zapier, I don't know how to pronounce it, but I'm sure you guys all do. Like, it's okay. I don't know how to pronounce these things that I use. It's fine. But you can have it communicate between two platforms. So when someone signs up for this or answers this on the survey, send them this email. And it's like, whoa, like, it's not another person, it's the computer. That's where true automation happens. So little things like that, like, what can you get? Can you have a person or a computer do things for you that just help the wheels turn behind the scenes, so you can be working hard in your 5 hours that week and then be spending the rest of the time enjoying the things that you absolutely love.
Those were great tips. Thank you so much. Now I'm curious about what you think about selling and automation. So do you think you can automate selling any kind of offer, or do you think that there are some offers out there that just can't be sold through automation?
I think that a lot can be sold through automation. I would say traditionally, in what I've seen, if it's a really high ticket, $5,000 package, $10,000 package, that it can take some face-to-face or voice-to-voice. And really, that's more probably to give someone peace of mind. So you can automate a ton of the process. You can automate finding your ideal client. You can automate getting them enough information to have them be a really hot lead. And then, schedule a sales call. You can even have someone, you can hire someone to do your sales calls for you if you don't want to do sales calls. And then just being able to kind of walk them through that process and like basically just button up that sale and help give them a little bit peace of mind so they're confident that, yes, this is what I want, and they move forward. But I think there's so many things that can be automated. Even, my course is like $397, and that process being automated through ads to find the ideal client, through a free webinar, through a sales funnel, and grabbing people. So there's a lot that can be automated for sure.
Awesome. So thank you so much, Krissy. That was amazing. And before we go, I just wanted you to tell our listeners where they can find you online if they want to connect with you.
Yeah, absolutely. So I do, from my businesses, I have my own personal brand where I do business coaching. And so that's a lot what I'm teaching. Basically what I taught here is what I teach. And so you can find me at the Krissy Chin on Facebook, on Instagram. That's my website. So that's where I am across the board, and you can connect with me. I would love to get a message in my direct message or in my inbox, just letting me know you listened to this, and any little takeaways or anything you're struggling with too. I'm a problem solver by nature. So if you have a problem, I love to help you kind of think through that process and help you come up with the solutions.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you so much, Krissy, for taking the time today to share your knowledge and your experiences with us today. So I really appreciate that. And I'm wishing you all the best. Talk to you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. This was really fun. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much for listening to the Wired for Success podcast. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you did, please take a sec to rate and review my show. It would mean the world to me because you'd help me reach more entrepreneurs like yourself who would love this show. If you'd like to learn more about creating a widely successful business without sacrificing your health, relationships, or sanity, make sure to stick around and subscribe so you don't miss out on any future episodes. And why don't you help me spread the word and share this show with your friends? I'd really appreciate it, and I'm sure your friends will too. Want to continue this conversation, build real relationships, and join a community of like-minded entrepreneurs? Come join my free Facebook community for visionary entrepreneurs. I would love to see you there. In the meantime, if you haven't done so already, grab my free brain priming audio file for entrepreneurs and start priming your brain for success in less than 5 minutes each morning. Curious? You can learn more about how this works and download the audio file at www.wiredforsuccess.solutions. Until next time, bye!